LaRae, and we are back once again with Boss Talk. And y'all know that's bold, one of a kind, sensational superstars. And that means that it is Wednesday. Yes, indeed, it is hump day. And I am glad to be back here with y'all. So, you know what I like to know? So, I want you to, first of all, just sit and listen to my theme song.
One of a kind.
All right, so like I said, it's Wednesday, and right now I want you to take that link and go and send it out. Share it out because we have a great conversation for you tonight. We are going to talk about self-care in a very different way this evening. So I want you to please get somebody in the house. So go ahead, take this time and send out the link. So while you're doing that, we'll continue. I don't know what happened to my theme song. It got stuck, I guess, huh? That's not right. There it is. And of course, I want to shout out Wayne Lindsay and Alana Lindsay for that amazing theme song. Sensational Superstar. Sensational Superstar. All right. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in once again to Boss Talk. And again, it's your girl, Shawn LaRae. So go ahead and put something in the chat. Tell me, let me see who's out here, and tell me what you're going to do to get you through to the weekend, because y'all know it is hump day. And at Boss Talk, we love the weekend. So, hey, Mr. Seals in the house. Welcome back, kind sir. Good to see you. What's up, Boss Talk? What's up, Mr. Seals? And hello, Miss Connie. Connie in the house. I'm expecting Alice Mitchell. Oh, great. So she's going to tune in. Good. Tell her to hurry up and get in here, because we're going to have a great chat tonight. So, as you all know, it is the end of the summer. We're rolling into fall. And when we are in the transition, I like to call it, of seasons, there are a lot of different things that happen. And one of the things is crime. Now, as we know, crime rates fluctuate. But how many of you out there have ever been concerned about your safety? Just on the day-to-day, going to and from work, going out in the evenings, ladies, even coming off of your job, maybe entering the parking lot in the evening, because now it gets dark early. So 5 o'clock it's dark already, and a lot of things can happen. So, as you know, we are committed at Boss Talk to self-care. And so this week, I'm especially excited because this show is in collaboration with the Black Women's Network. And as you know, the Black Women's Network is a business and professional women's organization where we are sisters in service to enhance resource sharing. And that spells out the word sisters. So one of the things that we do is every year, for the past 43 years, we have a breakfast conference. It is a breakfast forum. And many of you attended last year. As you know, it was about pivoting, as we all had to pivot during the pandemic and coming off of the pandemic. Life was very different. And so as women in particular, we pivoted, and we honored Tina Turner because of all the people in the world. We know that Miss Tina was one who perfected the art of pivoting. Well, our theme for the last several years also has been about self care. We've talked about mindfulness and self care. We've talked about eating well and self care. We've talked about sleeping well and self care. And now, this year, we're going to talk about self care as self defense. And I think that's something that we don't often think about, or at least not enough, considering the world in which we live. And we're going to talk about responsible gun ownership. Now, we're not advocating that everybody go run out and get a gun. Everybody shouldn't have one, which is clear from some of the incidents that we get to see on the news and read about throughout the internet and so on and so forth. However, responsible gun ownership is a real thing, and we're going to talk about that. So, I want to invite you once again, go grab somebody who you think needs to be in here while I introduce my guest. Hello, Miss Alice. Alice is in the house. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in, Alice. Now it's up to you to invite somebody else in the house. And remember, you guys, you have to subscribe. Not only like, comment, subscribe, but share. But subscribing helps me to get to 500 subscribers, which is what we're trying to do. And we are over 199 right now. So I want to thank y'all for that. And I want y'all to put the word out there some more. So I want to tell you a little bit about my amazing guest this evening. So Javondalyn Dunnigan is the founder and CEO of JMD Defense, LLC, and is located in Chicago, Illinois. She retired as a U.S. probation officer in January of 2016 after a distinguished 25-year career. As a safety educator, Javondalyn is passionate about training professionals, businesses, and nonprofit organizations in workplace safety and emergency operations procedure. Javondalyn is also a certified firearm instructor, range safety officer, and a distinguished expert shooter with the NRA Marksmanship Program. Now, the mission of JMD Defense LLC is to empower the clientele that they serve to take responsibility for developing an ongoing proactive safety plan. The goal is to be recognized as a stellar defense business that provides exemplary customer service with a spirit of excellence and integrity. So, without another word from me, Boss Talkers, please welcome to Boss Talk, Ms. Javondalyn Dunnigan.
Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely, and thank you for agreeing to come on. It was a quick conversation that got you here tonight, and I thank you so much for being ready to roll.
You're welcome.
Yes, indeed. So, Javondalyn, tell us a little bit about you. I know that you were a probation officer prior to starting your own business, and congratulations on retiring at such a young age. Go ahead, girl.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that. What made you decide to go in this direction at this time in your life?
So when I was a federal probation officer, I really didn't like guns. I was scared of firearms. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but in early 1990, we didn't have a very dangerous, I guess you could say, clientele. And so as time progressed, I tried 3 different times to sign up to take the gun classes and just decided I wasn't ready. So mentally, I finally got to that point and decided to learn how to properly handle a firearm. So when I retired, and that was really 3 years right before I retired. And once I retired, I decided that I was going to focus on women because we really struggle in the area of firearm ownership, training, and responsibility. So I just wanted to make sure that I identified those ladies that wanted to learn and wanted to proceed with starting a business as well as a gun club.
I love that. And so tell me, how do you get women interested in this? Are they just flocking to you? How do you find women who are interested in this?
Well, early on when I started the business in 2017, well, the end of 2016, the beginning of 2017, I willingly shared my story with a lot of media platforms. And I think because my story resonated, ladies heard that I was afraid of a firearm and that I had reached a point where I don't go anywhere without my gun. I didn't travel out of town with it this time, but I showed them this is the proper way to handle a gun. You don't have to be afraid of it. I would try to empower them and help them to
Mm.
overcome this fear. It was almost like a bucket list for some of the ladies, but that's pretty much what happened. It became word of mouth, referrals. And once people started hearing my story, it just took off.
I love that. I love that. Well, I have to admit, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I have this, in my head vision of me firing the gun and going flying backwards, or, just any amount of things that can happen. That's a lot of power is how I look at it. But I love that you said you've empowered these women to overcome that kind of fear. So one of the other things that I think, Javonda, is a little bit, that causes some trepidation for me, and I'm sure other women, is like understanding how to properly carry the gun. Like, I know there are laws around that. So why do you think it's critical that they know the concealed carry laws in their states, and especially as Black women and Black people and people of color in general?
Yes, it is important that we understand the law. What happens is, especially in Illinois, we have certain statutes that we have to teach in our classes regarding the law, regarding home invasion, where you can and cannot carry the firearm. The problem is a lot of times the teachers, the instructors, will zip through and run through the information, but they really don't focus on the educational piece. It almost seems like a factory with a lot of the instructors. So what I have really been adamant about from day one is the educational component. So when people join the gun club, and that's the part that I help ladies understand, you can't take a 2-day class and think you know everything about a gun.
Okay.
Most times what happens is people will take the class, put the paperwork up. If they own a gun or go buy a gun, they'll put it on the shelf only to grab it if somebody, shakes the door too hard or spooks them when they leave out in the morning. So I just try to tell everyone, firearm education is an ongoing process. Just like you leave out the house, you generally won't leave out the house without your phone. I touch my gun every single day. I know what it's going to do. I know that it's properly going to function. And if it does malfunction, I know how to clear a function. So that's part of that empowerment, to let ladies know you got to handle it just like you do a cell phone every day. You touch it, you take it with you, you don't leave home without it. And guess what? The people on the street, they're not leaving home without their firearms.
And don't you know? I love that. Thank you. It's like your American Express. Don't leave home without it. Well, Mr. Seals says, I applaud you and thank you for your service and dedication to safety. 100%. Absolutely. And I think that I love that. Hi, ladies. That's Sister Gigi, who joins us often. Good to see you, sis. Thanks for tuning in. So I love that your focus is safety, because everybody has their different opinions about guns and about all of that. But I think that if we look at this in a mature way, and in the way that it is meant to be used for protection, and I think that, women, we are out here, we're very vulnerable. Oftentimes, we are in a space and we would not know what to do if something that we read about were to happen to us. And that's that, I have my attention very piqued now that we're talking about this, because honestly, I don't know what I would do. And I think if you are talking about it, thinking about it, learning about it, then you dismiss some of the myths around it, and you start to sort of lower the possibilities of you like freezing and those kinds of things that I often think about happening in a circumstance where there is a threat, so to speak.
Well, I also caution, everything you said is actually correct. We need to, I'll add this piece. We need to have our heads on swivel with or without a gun, right? Because
Mhm.
the last thing you want is to have a gun and somebody take the gun from you. The last thing you want is to have a gun and you don't know how to shoot it. We had a lady in class this past weekend, and she said her husband was out of town. She thought she heard something. She went and grabbed the gun, and it turned out she didn't know how to use it, had never shot it. And I said, you would have probably shot yourself, and it might not have even been a justified shooting, right? Just because somebody
Yeah.
your property. But what they used to tell us at the federal probation office, and I think it's really a good way to look at it, don't go into any environment with a gun that you wouldn't go in without one. So that's deep, but what they're
Mm.
really telling
Wow.
us is just because you have a gun doesn't mean you should proceed. Proceed with caution. There are times that something doesn't feel right, that intuition kicks in, and I step back and say, you know what, let me turn around. Because ultimately, nobody wants to kill anybody, right?
Yeah.
You really just want it, as you said, for self protection. But what I say is, I'd rather have it and not need it, right? But
Right.
I definitely want to make sure that I'm every day thinking about I have this gun that can harm somebody. And I'll go one step further. When I go out, 99.9% of the times you will not see me have a drink because my gun is either with me or I left it in the car because I couldn't take it into that establishment. It's
Mhm.
gun or alcohol. And you know why? Because I don't want to get stopped by the police and my judgment is impaired. I don't want to get into an altercation, not to any fault of my own, and my judgment is impaired because I had to have a drink. It is a lot that
Mm.
goes with having a gun, and I could put down wine and choose my gun any day. So that's
I
something
love
people
that.
think about.
That is something that I would not have thought about. So, see, that's why you're here. Thank you so much. That makes great sense, right?
Mhm.
And so therein goes more of the responsibility piece that goes along with it. So, just out of curiosity, who owns the majority of guns in America that you think about? Maybe like statistically.
Well, of course, I hate to say of course, but white males have always owned guns. It has been either for self protection or recreation, right?
Mhm.
Or collecting firearms. But our numbers as African American women are rising. You pretty much stole what I normally tell everybody in the beginning, that we're traveling to and from places by ourselves. A lot of us are living alone. Even if you're married with your significant other or your spouse or your kids, you're generally running a lot of errands by yourself or maybe going to events by yourself. So more and more African American women are deciding that they want to learn about guns. I have 702 women that have joined my gun club in the last 7 years. So that's historic, right? There's no
Yes,
other gun club
indeed.
with just African American women in the United States other that I know of, other than my Ladies of Steel. But that says that women want to figure out the best way to protect themselves. Now, all 700 have not purchased guns because we are much more methodical about purchasing guns. Men
Mhm.
go out and buy 3 guns at a time and can't shoot any of them. And a lady will take a year and research and practice and then say, okay, I'm ready to decide to purchase this gun.
Right. I love that. So again, that points to that this is not just, run out there, get you a gun, and now you're good. There's a whole process that must be taken into consideration and methodically walked through the steps. So I so appreciate that you are doing it in that way. 702 Ladies of Steel in Chi-Town. I love that so much. So
Yeah.
tell me, when you get together with the ladies, are you guys always practicing shooting? I mean, are there other methods of self-defense that you go into with the ladies?
Yes. So one of the things, as I said earlier, I wanted my business to be focused on education as well. There has to be a continuing education component. So once a month, we have an opportunity for ladies to go to the range and practice. We rent out the range. It's like 4 different options that they can choose from, but I always have an instructor there. So that's a great way for someone that just buys a firearm and they're not sure how to operate it, or someone that doesn't have a gun, but they use the guns that I offer, so they can continue to practice until and maybe see what they like. Now,
Mhm.
the other part of that is we have an educational meeting once a month. And so this past Sunday, we brought in a federal firearm license dealer, happens to be an African American guy that's working out of Florida. And guess what he talked about? Straw purchases. That is where you purchase a gun. It was pretty prominent where young girls were purchasing guns for their boyfriends that were gang members, and that's a federal crime. You know that this person can't own a gun, but you buy it for them, and then you don't transfer it to them. You just buy it, making the government think you bought it for yourself, but you give it to someone else. So we've had a judge speak. Every month we have a speaker. So I've had a judge, I've had a firefighter. Something you don't realize, if you have a fire in your home and you have ammunition, most times people put guns on the top shelf and ammo. Guns and ammo should be in the lowest part of your home, and the bullets should be facing downward. So we've had police officers talk about what to do during traffic stops. Everybody's scared because they have a gun and they get stopped by the police. There is something called self-defense insurance people don't even know about, especially white people, but we don't know about it. It's insurance, and they will provide the attorney if you get involved in a legal self-defense situation. So it is so much information out here. Don't know, but guess who knows it? I do. I'm trying to research it every day, and I share it with my gun club.
I love that. So you take responsible gun ownership to the next level.
Absolutely.
I love that. And so all of what you just talked about are the characteristics of gun ownership, like knowing the laws, not just the laws around carrying, not just the laws around ownership, but the laws around protecting even yourself as a gun owner. This is really good stuff. Wow. I love it. I love it. So let's say you mentioned before, like the woman who was married and her husband owned the gun, and she heard the rattling and thought she would get the gun. Thank God she chose not to shoot it.
Yes.
But I guess it's pretty important then in a case like that for in a household that both partners be familiar with not only where the gun is, the location, but how to actually share it. Do you do anything with couples in that way?
Yes. So a lot of times couples take our class, and one of the things that we stress to both the husband and wife, I asked her a series of questions, and I said, "Have you ever shot the gun?" And she said, "No, it's not mine." And I said, "But technically it is, because he wasn't home and you grabbed it to defend yourself." So I tell couples, however many guns are in the home, you need to take them to the range to practice, and you both need to interchangeably practice with one another's guns. There was a quick story I just want to tell you that happened in Chicago. It was pretty horrific a few years ago. A husband was attacked in the alley by a mental health patient that lived across the street. And it turned out that as he was being attacked, his wife happened to be looking out of the kitchen window, saw the commotion, and turned out when she ran out, she was defenseless. She didn't have a gun. He didn't have a gun. And the man just really ripped him to shreds. It was horrible the way, and I won't even go into the graphic parts of it. They both lived to tell the story. But the husband came in one day to be fingerprinted, and he said to me, I was curious to say, "Did you have a gun?" And what I say to people is, if you're being attacked by surprise, you might not be able to get to your gun. That person may have seen some kind of way that you had a firearm. But what could have been different had his wife had access to a gun? Maybe she could have shot the right person to defend her husband, because two people tussling, you shoot the right person.
Right.
At least she could have stopped him from attacking her. But she ran out to help her husband and was defenseless. So again, if there is, in this situation, it was no gun. But that would have been a great situation if she had a firearm.
Right.
She couldn't shoot in the sky because, of course, when you shoot up, whatever goes up must come down. But it could have defended herself. So yes, everybody in the house needs to know how to use the firearm.
Wow, that's a horrific story, but thank you for sharing, because it just speaks to how important it is that we're not out here just I guess what comes to mind for me is couples will have two different cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the woman or the man may say, "Don't get in my car and let me teach you how to drive it."
Mm-hmm.
Right? But something and that car is a lethal weapon, but definitely a gun is a lethal weapon, and not take take into consideration that we both need to know how to work this properly for safety.
Absolutely.
Soror Terry says, wow, thank you for that tidbit of information.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All my other sorors are in here. We got to get some deltas up in here somewhere, huh? Sora Rhonda says, this is a great topic. Prioritizing personal safety through awareness and preparedness is key. Yes, seek professional guidance. Thank you, Javondalyn. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let's see what Mr. Seals says. Well, Miss Boss Talk, it's time to lock and load.
That's right.
You are too funny, Mr. Seals. I won't say that I haven't considered just in the and I have to shout out Gwendolyn Goodman, my community and public relations chair and conference chair for the Black Women's Network, because she found Javondalyn and came to me and was like, oh, I have a great topic. And I was like, what? Who, huh? But I thought, as I thought more about it, I thought, that's really a good idea. And I love the idea of self-care as self-defense. And as you may not know this, Javondalyn, but for the last several years, self-care has been a part of all of our themes, even our regular monthly meetings of the Black Women's Network, because it gets a lot of attention, but not always the right kind of attention, because much of the time we think of self-care, we think we're going to get a mani-pedi.
Right.
It's so much deeper. It's about your breathing. It's about your connection to yourself and all of the things. And so to consider that self-care is taking care of yourself, and self-defense is also taking care of yourself and protecting yourself. And so I love the connection of self-care as self-defense. And you could also see it the other way, self-defense as self-care. So I really love that. I love everything that you are doing. And so because I am doing this in collaboration with the Black Women's Network, this is probably the only piece that they're going to get to see on Saturday. So we want to shout them out. Ladies, I know y'all got on y'all blinged up sneakers, but by now I probably already done won that contest, but I'm just saying. But know that I love y'all. Know that you are amazing, and we are loving you for being sisters in service to enhance resource sharing. And this will be our 43rd annual breakfast forum, y'all. If you don't know about it, you better get your tickets. You better go to Eventbrite, look it up, blackwomen'snetwork.net. And also, I want to shout out my amazing board of directors, Michelle Moore-Bell, Vice President, Treasurer Tanisha Butcher. Let's see, let me go down the line. Corresponding Secretary, Sylvia Tedford. Online with us tonight, Constance Leathers as our recording secretary, our parliamentarian, Ms. Camelia Blair, and then our committee chairs, Gwendolyn Goodman, community and public relations, and conference chair, and our programs chair. Well, that would be me at this point, as well as the president. And let me think, am I leaving anyone out? I don't want to do that. I think I have covered all of us. And if I did leave you out, please charge it to my head and not my heart, because I love you all. And I'll see y'all on Saturday as we do our get down, because this is a blinged out sneakers affair, y'all. Leave your pumps in the closet, please. This is your cutest workout outfit. And I do have my purple velour tracksuit. And we're going to have a good time. So, Javondalyn, we're going to bring you back on, and we're going to keep chatting here for the Boss Talkers, but I'll let you say peace out to the sisters too.
All right. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Hello, everyone. And I'm sure they're going to share all of my information as to how you can connect with me. And just remember to make sure you don't go anywhere with that firearm, that you wouldn't go without one, and keep your head on a swivel.
All right. Thank you. Yes, indeed. And we're going to ask you, the producer is going to ask you to reshare your links in the private chat as we chat here because she got kicked off and they disappeared. So if
Okay.
you could just put them back in there. But I really I want to talk more about the other pieces of self-care. Let's see what Terry is saying. Here she is. She says, well, after my parents passed, I found my mother's 38 and automatic and 22. Wow. And so she was saying, and you never knew that, huh? So it runs in your family, responsible gun ownership. Lorraine. Hi, Lorraine. She says, you look beautiful, Sean LeRae. Oh, well, thank you, darling. Thank you. And thank you for tuning in tonight. So, we often we talk about self-defense, and my niece is in her first opportunity to live as a grown-up adult. She's my niece, my goddaughter, and she is living with two roommates. And their mom, my bestie, took them to a self-defense class. And so they're learning a little bit. What are some of the things that go with self-defense that don't have to do with gun ownership?
Well, one of the things that we try to tell young ladies is that, think about your comings and goings to and from your apartment, your house, or wherever you're living. People are watching us at all times.
Yeah.
They want to do us harm. So we're not even thinking about that car when you pull out or when you show up to your house and you realize this car looks a little weird or something seems off. What I say is always trust your intuition. When something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. So if you feel like, okay, if I walk into this room or my house and something seems off, back out. It's no reason to go in there just to get into the home because you feel that's your safe space. Somebody could be in there, could be hiding. When it comes to self-defense, anything loud draws attention. Screaming help might not work. So there's siren alarm keychains that you can get. Pepper spray is great, but you got to get up close enough on them. And then I have bronchial asthma. I don't want to spray it. And then I wind up coughing, worse than the person.
Exactly.
And have a buddy system. One of the things, and this is probably the best advice I can give any family member, when you live with people, have a code word. So I'll give you an example. It's three of them in the home, and let's say one leaves out in the morning to go to school or to work, and somebody stops them with a gun and says, let's go back into the house. So she comes back in the house, your roommates assume, oh, she's just coming back in. She left something, but she's coming back in with some people with a gun. So if she said the word Tony or yellow or, like a name or a word that is germane to all of them. If I said Hampton, my friends would know because that's what we have this weekend, right? So then everybody knows that they should be on alert because something is wrong. There's an intruder in the house. Same thing. If there is an intruder that comes into the home and everybody's just at home. Mom or dad need to be running to get the gun. The kids hear the code word. They need to be hiding in the safe space. So no matter where you live, find those spaces in your home. Like where I live, I told my daughter, you always go to this other room. When she was little, I said, go to this other room because if somebody comes up the stairs and starts shooting, your bedroom is right there because we travel through drywall, right?
Right.
So little things like that. Have a code word. One of the other things that I tell people, and I'm amazed at how many people don't answer unknown calls. I had my own experience with my 27-year-old back 5-6 years ago, not answering a call because my phone was locked in my car. She didn't recognize the number. The problem with that is I could be in distress calling you from another number. Just answer the phone. And if you want to talk to the person, just hang up.
That's right. Ooh, girl, say that. Wait, stop.
If you don't want to talk to, just hang
You
up.
have got to say that again because that is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. I can't tell you how many people you talk to when they say, I don't answer calls I don't know. That is big.
Oh, it's huge. And I'm telling you, it happened to me. My car keys were locked in the car. I'm looking at the gas pump. I'm looking at my purse, looking at the keys. Had to go inside, called her, I swear, at least 20 times. She was asleep. And I said, please, what was stopping you from answering the phone? Well, I didn't recognize the call. And I said, don't you remember that time you were in college at midnight, your phone cracked and somebody called from another phone? I didn't know who it was, so I answered the phone. It's as simple as that. But when you do live with people, you want to have a code word. Just like when we were growing up, you had code words with your friends and say, look at him at 12 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
We're here at homecoming, and I am going to talk to my friends about, and they're ramping up security because what's been going on at HBCUs and different shootings. And I'm going to tell them, listen, if something happens, we need to be able to call someone that's not here. Let's say my daughter. They all have my daughter's phone number.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll call her from somebody's phone and say, I'm safe. This is where I am. Because when things happen, your phone flies, this happened, and everybody's in a panic. So we need to be thinking. I tell people I'm prepared and I'm paranoid. I'm a healthy dose of both.
Mm-hmm.
We need both of those.
That's good. That is so good.
Thank you.
Yes, you have given out some goodies here tonight. Y'all listening to this? Write these things down, or you can come back and watch the show again and write them down then. Now, Soror Terry, when I said she was locked and loaded, now you're good to go, she says, no, what do I do with them? So what advice do you have for her with these guns now that she doesn't know what to do with?
So what I've done in Chicago, and what I'm going to recommend that you do, unless there's someone there that you trust, you can take the guns to a gun store and tell them that you inherited these firearms. And number one, you don't know if they're loaded, right? That's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So if you don't feel comfortable transporting them, then you may want to call somebody that maybe a retired policeman, or talk to the police station in your area and say that my mom or whoever left these firearms for me, and I really don't, either I don't want them or I want them, but I'm not sure if they're loaded or unloaded. If you do decide to turn in the firearms and give them to the police, get a record, because guess what? Those guns are still registered to that original owner. And if you take possession of them as the heir of the estate, then now they're not technically under your name because no one transferred them, but they're going to come back looking for Joe Blow, and Joe Blow is not here. And then it's going to be, they're looking for you. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you always get a receipt whenever you transfer firearms, and never throw those away.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The .22 is really too small. It's usually a small gun, and the bullets are too small to even stop a threat. So the 38 revolver, I'm certain. So that's fine for home defense, but not for everyday carry.
Okay. What would you recommend then for everyday carry?
Okay. So what I recommend is this. Number one, get recommendations, which I'm going to give you about 5. Go shoot the firearms first to make sure that you like how they fit in your hand. You like how they shoot. No two people are going to have the same experience with a firearm. So you could get these 5 recommendations that I'm going to give you, and then go out and say, well, I'm going to buy one of them, sight unseen, never shot it. And then now you're stuck because it's not smooth. It didn't fit as well in your hand. So I stick pretty much to name brands. And I'm going to tell you those in a minute. I pay between $400 and $650. I won't pay less than $400, and I'm not going to pay more than $650. In between that price point, you can get a really good, solid gun. I also believe that a semi-automatic, a single stack, which is 10 rounds or less, is enough. If you can't get it done in 10 rounds, you shouldn't be shooting.
There you go.
Anything over 10 is going to be a heavier gun because you got more bullets. And let me just tell you this really quick tip about active shooters. I took an active shooter training only to discover active shooters normally take multiple magazines with them and fill them with less than 10 rounds. You know why? Because those rounds, that gun is more than likely going to jam the more rounds it has in it. So I recommend 10 rounds or less, because you want to know that your gun is not going to malfunction if you have to shoot someone. Now, here are my top 5 recommendations. The Sig Sauer P365. You always want to do your homework, because you don't want a gun to be recalled. Do not buy a used gun from anybody, because you don't know the history of the gun. You don't know if they altered the trigger, if it's been involved in a crime, how they cleaned it and maintained it. So the SIG P365 is an excellent gun. Do not buy the 320. That gun is all over the news with problems. It goes off if somebody drops it, if they touch their holster. A lot of police departments are suing SIG for that 320. So the 365. The next one is the Glock 43X. That is a great gun if you have smaller hands, as well as the SIG. Number 3 is the Smith & Wesson letter Z. And all of these are 9mm. And I'll tell you in a second why I'm saying 9mm. That is a great gun if people have arthritis in their hands, because when you load the gun, it's easy to load. That's why they call it an EZ. And it's easy to chamber around in the chamber with the slide. It's much easier. Number 4 is the Canic, and it's called the TCP Elite, I believe, subcompact. All of these are subcompact. That Canic is a great gun. It's a little fatter, might be slightly heavier. Men tend to like it. I like the gun, but it's harder to conceal if you're in a concealed carry state. Mm-hmm. And the other gun is the Springfield XDS. That is a really good, solid gun as well. So there are several varieties. You can't go wrong with SIG, can't go wrong with Smith & Wesson. And certainly Springfield makes a great gun as well.
Wow, you guys, I hope y'all taking notes over there. Wherever you are, I hope you are taking notes. This is some really good stuff. Perry says, thank you so much. This was very helpful. Absolutely. Wow.
And let me see. Can I just say one thing about why I mentioned the 9mm? During the pandemic, ammo across the country was flying off the shelves. They were manufacturing 9mm ammo in record numbers and at fast pace. You don't ever want a gun caliber that is obsolete to an extent that they can't manufacture in large numbers, or not in demand. That's what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. So 80 ammo, 22 ammo, 40 and 45 ammo was very hard to come by. 9mm was easier to manufacture, and that's what they were doing because that's where the greater demand was. A 9mm is sufficient. A 40 caliber and a 45 caliber gun is going to be heavier, and you're going to struggle finding ammo. So I always want something where I can call Sean LeRae and say, hey, we have a pandemic. Do you have a box I can borrow? Mm-hmm. More than likely, you're going to say, yep, I got a box of 9mm. That's what happened during the pandemic. So I always say buy a 9mm.
Okay, good. Now, let me ask you, where are these things on your website? Do you have recommendations on your website, or do they need to go further? And do you do virtual classes, or do we need to fly to Chicago? What's up, girl? Tell us.
We can do all of that. I could come out there. We could do virtual. It's really much easier. Obviously, I can reach larger crowds through virtual. I do have a how to purchase a firearm online class. It's an hour. That's $50, and it really walks you A through Z with purchasing a gun, because you know what happens, like when we go to buy a car, they talk real fast. They tell you, you want this red car, but you really came in there for this blue car that had this, but they sell us the red car. Same thing with a gun. You walk in, oh, this is the right gun for women. This is the easiest gun for women. And they'll sell us a revolver because it's easy to maintain a revolver, but it's not easy to shoot a revolver. So I do have that class online. I do have an intro to firearms class that I do online. And like I said, if it's a group or something, then certainly I can tailor the class. It's so much information. I could talk for hours about responsible firearm ownership. I really could.
I love it. Well, I want to pivot a little bit, because as I was peeking around your website, I always like to read reviews, right? Okay. And so I saw some really great reviews, and so I realized that you do some of the safety classes that you do. I'm just going to read one because I thought it was really great. Extremely beneficial is the headline. And it says, thank you so much, JMD Defense LLC, for providing guidance and professional insight while helping us evaluate and better manage risk and regulatory compliance. Lynn's experience and skill set was extremely beneficial to our team in assisting us with the development of our new corporate safety strategies and operational security protocols. Despite our short timeline, JMD Defense LLC was able to provide high quality content and keen advisory services. The on-site live fingerprinting service was an added bonus, saving time and money. Thank you. We look forward to working with JMD Defense LLC as we continue to grow our team. I am impressed. Okay. So
Thank you.
you not only help individuals, women, Black women, learning about responsible gun ownership and that sort of thing, but you do other things with corporations and nonprofits and organizations. And another one I read was a child care center that you helped them to learn and their parents. So tell us a little bit about that kind of work that you do as well.
Yes, so I conduct situational awareness trainings and security
Mm,
assessments at businesses. And what I did at a church, they had two child care centers, and I went to observe what happens at drop off and what happens at pickup. And I walked around the building because what I want to do is always think like a criminal. What are those blind spots? Where are people not looking? Where do I have an opportunity to walk a child off of the property? There was a parent that came in one morning. He was an electrician and a carpenter, but he had knives. He had pocket knives right on his duty belt, but they were knives for his business. But any child could just run up and grab, or an irate parent could snatch it off of his belt. So it was little things like the bushes, even with our homes, we can have very densely populated areas around our homes. And that's what happened at this childcare space. They had all of these bushes. And I said, if there's an active shooter, it's plenty of places for this person to hide. What
mm,
happened 2 days after my written assessment, and I also helped them create some policy around firearms because they didn't have it. They had a sign on the door, but it was no corrective action plan that they had in place if somebody actually, a parent or an employee. But what happened 2 days after my assessment, they saw on camera, I had just told them about a backdoor entrance that their employees were concerned about, because I would do a survey with the employees so I can understand what were their safety concerns. They had a lot of them,
mhm,
right? Most they
mhm.
do. And this back door had a jimmy rigged way of entering. And you know what? When this criminal came to the back door, he figured out how to get in that door. And I said, you know why? Because he's been watching your employees going in and out that door. So I earned my money, and it was the best thing that could have happened. I hate to say that nothing happened. Thank God they had some things in place. But, just it's been, I love going because it's almost like Sherlock Holmes. You're trying to see a problem and solve a mystery.
I love it. I love it. Wow, you are on top of it. Now,
Thank you.
let me ask you, so do you recommend that women become stronger? Do you have do you recommend working out in terms of the gun ownership and other areas of self-defense, like, there are martial arts, there are other just regular self-defense classes where you learn how to flip people and trip people and those kinds of things. What do you recommend around that?
Yep, absolutely. We do offer that in Chicago. So I will say this, one thing that you'll find across the country, probably you'll see a multitude of martial art classes for men and for young boys. But you don't hardly see any for us. And I'm going to tell you, being honest, it's been hard trying to fill our classes for self-defense. And now I just say, if you got a group, bring a group and then we'll do the class. I don't
Mhm.
know if it's we're afraid of sweating, maybe our hair and flipping people over. I mean, seriously, I don't know. We've dropped the price down, almost giving it out for free. We, the physical piece seems to be a challenge for us. So what I would say is find a class, and if a male instructor has a co-ed class and you can take it, then yes, try to get that physical component as well. But you know what I always say? Nothing beats having a brain. And if you're thinking smart, knock on wood, I've never been a victim of a crime, but I'm probably more paranoid than most people. And I've always been like that before I even went into criminal justice. Even at the hotel, I tell people when you're out of town, I'm looking around every corner. When I come back in the room, I'm opening up the closets, looking at the bed,
Mhm.
not a false bottom. I mean, even, we grew up going to the ice machine, leave the door open, send the kids to the ice machine, come back, think about wide open spaces. So my
Mm.
point is, I could have all the physical strength I could have, but if somebody's in here and they get the jump on me because I wasn't paying attention, it all goes out the window.
Yes. I appreciate how you're making us think. That is
That's
really
right.
some
That's,
good stuff.
we don't
I
leave home without our brain, and we shouldn't, even when we go out of town. One thing I don't want to forget is there's a book, if I can mention it, by Gavin DeBecker called The Gift of Fear. And because I didn't carry a gun throughout my career, I had to rely on my instincts. And
Mhm.
I did. Me and my field partner, she had a key to my car. And so if whoever got to the car first, if something went down in the field, we jumped in the car. We never had to, but we had a plan. But the gift of fear was great because it talked about intuition and when something doesn't feel right, stop. And that book really helped guide my career because it
Mhm.
safe. So think about, don't leave home without your brain. Always trust your instincts.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. Now, who's that by? Gavin?
DeBecker. It's an old book. Gavin DeBecker is called The Gift of Fear.
All right, we're gonna put that in the chat for y'all. Now, I gotta tell you, the piece about intuition is really big because I also believe that sometimes we don't um, trust it,
Yes.
and we question it. And my grandmother used to always say, "Follow your first mind, baby girl, because the second man's the devil."
That's right.
And any time that I have not done that, I have found myself in some kind of trouble. And
Mhm.
so I'm really working on developing my intuition because it is there. And I think for a long time I was afraid of it. So now I am actually working to be more present. I use mindfulness for that and breath work and all of that to be more present just anyway.
Mhm.
Because I tend to be a little bit ditzy, I own it. But I think that it's really important to consider that, like what you said, having your head on swivel.
Mhm.
Because we sometimes can be caught up in the moment, caught being on the phone, walking through places and at night and things like that. And when I see people doing that, I'm like, what's she thinking about? Don't but I
Yep.
think now it's important to stop people, women, and
Absolutely.
just kind of say, hey, sis, you might want to take those out as, nighttime, it's dark. You might not want to, you
They
know,
all the time. Only have
all
one
the time. Thank you.
hand carrying
Hmm.
a bunch of bags. Have one hand free. And if you had to, drop the bags, but have one hand free to make sure you can get to whatever tool you're using or to be able to fight with one hand. And nobody
Hmm.
pull you and snatch you because you got bags. One
Yeah.
other thing I always I laughed and told my roommate, I said, "Oh, I can carry my purse here because in Chicago I really don't carry a purse. I keep it in the trunk." Um,
Mm.
and so we don't really need a bunch of the stuff that's in the purse. It's just our stuff. But I carry my little flat wallet with me in and out of a store because all I really need is my money and my ID. So it's
Hmm.
here. I'm not going to put my guard down, but it's not quite of where I need to be on 10 and 20 and 30 in Chicago.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because you're down in the South right now.
Yep. And even though this is gun country, I get to the hotel and they have a no gun sign at the door.
Wow.
And so a lot of times people say, "Oh, I want to go out of town with my gun," but you go out of town and you don't know that in the state you're in, yes, the state says you can have your gun, but the hotel says you can't. And even if you try to
Wow.
say, "Well, I'll just put a no, don't disturb sign," guess what happens? Sometimes that sign could fall off. Somebody could snatch it off for kids playing in the hall when they're out of town. Then the
Mm.
maid comes in, you thought they weren't coming in, and somebody steals the gun or they find out you have it. Now you're in trouble because you've committed
Right.
a crime. So it's a lot
Hmm.
to think about when you have a gun. When I go to the airport, I'm at home like this, patting myself down. Okay, let me make sure the gun is at home. I don't have any ammo because you get to the to the airport, it's ding, 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 and they will take your butt to jail. You get
Wow.
arrested, fingerprinted, and processed.
Okay. So let's be clear.
Yep.
Let's be clear. Well, Javondelin, I am so excited for this talk. I'm so happy I got to know you and to know more about what it is that you do. I think is so necessary, and I'm just so proud of what you do. And thank you so much for what you do because we just don't think about these things. And so I love, if y'all don't take anything else away tonight, Javondelin said, "Don't leave home without your brain."
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
when it clicked on, right? And firing on all cylinders. I love that. So I always ask my guests to leave a final thought with the Boss Talkers. So what would that be from you tonight?
That's a good point. I mean, I think I've said most of them. I know I did say that I'm paranoid and I'm prepared. And I think it's good for us to have a little of both and find that sweet spot and that balance, because I need to be proactive with all of my safety things that I'm thinking about. Have a plan. The reason I said I don't carry my purse in Chicago, because if something happens and I have to jump out of my car, I'm not grabbing for a purse. I'm jumping out the car because I can replace the other stuff. So just think about and every day say, well, when I leave out the house, let me look down the street. Let me make sure and look around this corner and just do your own self-assessment of, are there any blind spots around my space at work, at home, where something could happen.
All right. All right, Boss Talkers, y'all heard it here first. And this is where you can find Javonda Safety, Defense Investigations, and Firearm Education Consultant. Facebook is JMD Defense, and her website is jmddefense.com. So don't sleep on this, y'all. Get in touch with her and take care of all your needs. And of course, this is me, your girl, Shawn LaRae, SLR's Social Connect, with me at www.livinglovedhealing.org. If you need therapy, if you need coaching, livinglovedcoaching.com, and on Instagram for fun and relevant tips about life, living self-care, and loving well at Living Loved Healing, on Facebook as well at Living Loved Healing. And of course, you know that every Wednesday we are right back here with Boss Talk. That's one of a kind, sensational superstar, and that's each and every one of you. So jam it out with me as we listen to my theme song by Wayne Lindsay and Alana Lindsay. I love y'all. Thank you. Peace, y'all. You know what to do. Live love and alone, y'all.